Many Arabic learners and even some native speakers see this letter and call it Alif. But guess what? It's not always Alif. In fact, most of the time it's actually Hamza. So today, let's break it all down and finally clear up the confusion. Let's start with this. It's called Hamza. Hamza is a real consonant. It has a sound just like B or M. It's the same sound you hear at the start of apple or uh-oh in English. It's a quick glottal stop produced deep in the throat. So, what's the deal with Alif? Alif by itself is just a long vowel, nothing more. And it represents the long A sound like in Bab, Kitab, Sama, Jar, and so on. But when we see Hamza written on top or below, that's a completely different story. That's when we pronounce Hamza as a sharp, clear sound. For example, the Hamza is above the Alif. Ila, the Hamza is below the Alif. Now, look at the word Adam. This is an example of Hamzatul Mad, which is a combination of Hamza and a long vowel. Notice the small curved mark above the Alif. This is called the Mad symbol or Mad, and it indicates that the sound is extended. Originally, it was written as this. And in the Quran, you can still see it written this way in some words. But in modern standard writing, the Mad symbol is used instead to represent this combination. There's a special kind of Hamza called Hamzatul wasl, the connecting Hamza. It looks just like a regular Alif but behaves differently. It always appears at the beginning of a word, but there's a trick. We only pronounce it if the word starts a sentence. If the word comes in the middle of a sentence, the Hamza sound disappears, even though the Alif is still written. For example, ism. At the start, ismi Ja'far. Ismi Ja'far. In a sentence, يوجد حرف العين في اسم جعفر. يوجد حرف العين في اسم جعفر. Instead of saying في اسمي, we say في اسمي. It flows as one word. We don't pause between fi and ismi. And we also drop the E sound in fi, jumping straight from the F sound to the S sound. Another example, the Alif in L is always Hamzatul wasl, so it follows the same rule. At the beginning of a sentence, we pronounce it. البيت كبير. البيت كبير. The house is big. But in the middle of a sentence or a phrase, the Hamza sound disappears and the words connect smoothly. For example, take the phrase في البيت. Instead of saying في البيت separately, we skip the Hamza sound, and before it we skip the long E sound in fi, flowing from the F sound with kasra to the L sound. Another example of Hamzatul wasl in L is in the phrase في النهار. في النهار. Here we jump straight from F to the first N, skipping both Hamzatul wasl and Lam. Hamzatul wasl is skipped because of the rule that applies when it appears in the middle of a sentence. And as for Lam, it's silent here because it meets a silent letter, something I explained in my video about sun and moon letters. Also, notice that an-nahar has a shadda on the noon. If you're not sure how shadda works, check out my video on that too. Before we move on, I want to mention an important rule in Arabic. Let's call it the oral rule or speaking rule. This rule helps us understand how words sound when we stop at the end of a sentence or phrase. In Arabic, when you pause at the last letter of a word, that letter often takes a sukun, even if that word originally had a vowel at the end in a full sentence. That's because Arabic words usually have fixed vowels at the beginning and middle, but the vowel at the end can change depending on its role in the sentence. For example, take the sentence قرأت الكتاب. Since al-kitab is in the object position, it normally ends in fatha, al-kitab. But if you stop at it, following the oral rule, you say قرأت الكتاب with a sukun on the last letter. It's not a strict rule, but in spoken Arabic, this is the natural way to pause on words. Next, there is one more form, alif maqsura. It looks like ya without dots. And it's actually just another way to write a long A sound at the end of certain words, like in ila, ala, fata. Earlier we talked about Hamza, but we didn't go over its different positions. Now, let's complete the picture. Hamza doesn't always sit on in alif or below it. It can also be written on Hamza on waw. Hamza appears on waw in two cases. One, when the Hamza itself takes a dhamma, like in mas'ool, mas'ool. Two, when it follows a dhamma sound, like in yu'min, yu'min. Hamza on a base. Hamza appears on a base in two cases. One, when the Hamza itself takes a kasra, like in su'ila, su'ila. Two, when it follows a kasra sound, like in bi'r, bi'r, or shati, shati. It also appears on a base when it follows ya with sukun, like in hay'ah. On the line. Sometimes Hamza appears alone on the line. This usually happens in two cases. One, when it follows a sukun, like in shay', shay', buط', buط'. Two, when it follows a long vowel, like in قراءة, قراءة, مقروء, مقروء. So, Hamza changes its position based on what comes before it.